Let me quote Mr. Mark Twain. He had a question why he was so interested in the future. He said, well, of course I'm interested in the future because I'm going to live my rest of my life there. That's why I'm interested, at least. I think it's going to be exciting.
That's a strong quote. So you can really decide with that quote, okay, who are the ones that live in the future, want to be there and form a future, or who are the guys that, oh no, we did that for 20 years that way, we'd continue doing that.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Gold Casting podcast. And today we take a look back what happened in 2025 and how we expect 2026 to be and how you need to position yourself to say at the end of 2026, what a year, what a great success.
But how was 2025, Fabian?
2025 was quite a terrible year for the foundry industry. It started quite well, but then I think you saw the same, that after the first quarter, when you see the sales numbers dropping, you see the ripple effect throughout the industry. New projects got stopped, requirements got eased down, that it's okay, let's make it as cheap as possible to get more of a cost advantage because energy costs, personal costs are increasing. And you could also see that the projections for the upcoming volumes got reduced and reduced and reduced. And you had some parts, depending on what OEM you're delivering to and what vehicle, that you have something like -70%, -80% what you expected in volume.
Yeah. For me, it was a year with quite a lot of drama on one hand. But on the other hand, I think the second half of 2025, a great portion of our industry seems to be a little bit more paralyzed. I don't know if you agree. It was a strange mixture of drama, paralyzed. Yeah.
Especially with that double hit that you don't have a great outlook for the future, and the current volumes are also dropping, which used to be hammered in stone. If you had a curve from an OEM, that was what is coming. You might be lucky to get even more. But now it's like, what to do? And also at the same time, capital getting more and more expensive, and you have the massive competition from Far East with the electromobility out there that deliver cars half the price with not your castings in them.
So it comes to the question. I love doing these episodes because this is the pure speculation. But we have been speaking with a lot of people, Fabian. I mean, it must be like 20, 30 people that we have actually discussed this topic with. So it's not only our personal thing, but to start a little bit on a personal tone, what do you think on the top level to expect from 2026?
2026, I think, will be the deciding year who will survive and will thrive and who will go under. Because we know that there is an overcapacity in certain machine sizes and that is not going away. So we probably see bankruptcies, but maybe also that company groups fuse together to form larger conglomerates and then move out the production to have facilities that are at capacity. What is your expectation for 2026?
Well, I'm a Swedish guy, you know, so we're born to be positive even if everything is dark. And I've been pretty dark. I think at least half of the bankruptcies has been seen in 2025, actually. I totally agree with you. I think 2026 is the decision year. I see some signs of light in the darkness. I do, but it's still cold out there. So mixed feelings. Like I said, 2025 was a strange mixture between drama and paralyzed companies, people, groups, whatever. I think we will see a third portion in 2026 that will be people with a strong determination, making plans in 2025 that will start to be executed in 2026. And this is pretty much what I'm hoping for, actually.
Yeah, I would definitely hope that more and more companies really take decisions and not just wait for their OEMs to come around and tell them what to do. And I think that is the crucial skill for 2026. Taking decisions for your own future, taking the responsibility and doing something.
Yeah. All right. So dear listener, we have been talking to a lot of people. We have been discussing this topic with smart guys, and this is a podcast how to make money in our industry. So let's stay focused on our core value, money. I kind of love money. So let's dig into it. We have a couple of points.
I think we should start with a good thing, because there is a lot of talk about new gigacastings, and we come to the gigacastings in a later point, but we want to talk about that there is also quite a development going on the smaller machine size that is not a gigacasting, that we find more and more structural castings going into production throughout the industry on 2,800 plus, still not small machines.
I actually see some 1,600 as well.
You see 1,600 as well, okay.
The middle up to almost the big. And I think all these rear floors and battery trays and whatever people are talking about has been standing a little bit in the way of it. And the big companies, when they designed the body white, they needed to get this in place first, and then they can start to worry about A pillar and B pillars and seal beams and what have you. And we actually did some thinking around this in our own company, and we started to realize that there are pretty much of aluminum silicon 7 parts that is needed in conjunction to do these big ones. And I had this also confirmed by some smart people in the machine building industry that they are seeing some upwind here from maybe 1,600 up to 3,500. So maybe we can hope to see them even in the portals.
Yeah,
think so.
Yeah, that would be great. But one thing is here, if currently there's an overcapacity, be aware that everybody with the right experience and background is bidding on these parts. So they won't be the big margin bringers that you expect them to be. But there is parts coming your way if you're just relying on the existing portals. And especially ALSC7 is a different animal in high pressure die casting. It works perfectly well in Rio casting. So there is also now an easier switch if you want to go in that direction with longer tool lifetime, higher quality output.
Yes, but there is an area you have to grasp, and that's metallurgy. I'll come back on it, but the thing is, when you're playing around with aluminum silicon 7, you try to avoid T6 and all these things. You can do that, but you have to be quite precise on magnesium. You need to use your manganese to avoid soldering. You need to keep your iron low to keep the elongation alive. You're used to push in some zirconium or some other foo-foo dust. I can tell you directly, it doesn't work if you have a flow length of 1 meter. So metallurgy, guys, metallurgy will come back 3-4 times in this podcast episode as a way of making money. Have you heard that before, Fabian?
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that metallurgy is coming back, coming from two metallurgists in a podcast talking about
Yeah, there you go. But the thing is, I think this whole movement is the revival of metallurgists.
Absolutely right. We've seen it already starting in, I think, the ALSC7, which when it was released in 2020, 2019, somewhere around that, where the first parts came out, it was the first time after 20 years that a new alloy was introduced into the automotive foundry industry. And that thing, especially with different properties, a sustainability requirement is something that we will see more and more, that you need to be really careful with your metallurgy. And it's not just taking the ingots, putting it in a furnace, put all your scrap with it, and then take the metal and pour it somewhere.
No, you have to
These
do the
times are over.
Which leads us to the next point, which is so interesting. Purchasers and engineers need to know you exist and what you can offer. And here comes the thing. This will be a big thing for 2026 to make them understand what you can offer. So brand building and marketing. I mean, you have a beautiful explanation. What is a company? What is a brand, Fabian?
Yeah, there's a big difference. So with a company, it's basically like you can write down, hello, we are a high quality casting supplier. Okay, people know that you supply castings, but they don't know what you're specialized in, what you actually can deliver, and everybody can say they are high quality. With a brand, so you create a fan base, a curiosity around your brand, educate on what you do, and people start to follow you, start to understand what you do and why you do it. So there is no question about it. They know that you are the high-end supplier, and people want to work with you because it's you and not because they want to have a cheaper quote. And that is something where it is especially hard to do for let's say, middle-aged and older guys that have
Hello.
something.
I'm 55.
Hi, Staffan. But you're sitting in a podcast.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, because the whole foundry industry used to be, I have a problem, I buy a machine, my problem is gone. Now you have something with the brand building that there is no ROI. You have to start somewhere. The only thing you can control is the input, and you don't know what's coming out of it. So, example, we had it last time that we got a message based on a podcast we recorded about more than 2 years ago. And that started to get into business because people said, that is exactly what I'm currently facing as an issue. Can we have a discussion about that? And these are the things where you need to be present. You need to reach people in a way that they also consume content, and you need to be authentic in that. So, and it's so much fun to start an exchange. And I think that is something where in 2026 and onwards will be the differentiating factor, that purchasing organizations will include you in new developments because you are that brand. Because if you're just a company supplying high quality castings, you're a number in their comparison sheet. You're totally replaceable. But if you're a brand, you're not replaceable. You are the go-to supplier.
Yeah, and that comes an interesting thing, dear listener. It sounds like we're speaking about companies here, but when purchasers and engineers are looking for knowledge, know-how, new alloys, they will think about people, right? I mean, if you start to think about it, they're looking and they're saying, yeah, that's a great foundry because they have Mr. A, Mrs. Y, and maybe the upcoming guy, Mr. Z, right? So what does this mean? Well, here comes the first on this theme. The personal brands, even if you belong to a company, you're employed by a company, it's starting to really make an impact. And we will see this in 2026 much, much more. In Europe, we tend to think about a company like an entity with a lot of people into it. This is switching, and you see a transformation in the whole society where you actually start to talk about companies. You say, yeah, that crowd, they have a great project team, the blah, 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 the CEO is great, and blah, 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 blah. So this is becoming more and more apparent for us that this is happening.
You can already see that when you look, for example, what are large companies looking out for job descriptions. And many Fortune 500 companies in the US already started hiring content marketing people with exclusively producing content for their executive team, because a company is an entity and that's basically soulless. But if you have the people that taking the decision, being visible, being transparent, being trustable, then you start to accelerate that brand building. And the same is for the engineers talking about technical solutions and things like that. You get different viewpoints on the same thing, and all together grows your brand and grows your visibility.
So if you're a little bit smart and you're sitting there as a CEO and you want to do a proper marketing, what you actually should do is help your employees do their personal branding because they're linked to your company. So how do you do it? Well, first of all, people are looking for new channels. Presentations on conferences, the Foundry Association yearly meeting, and those things. Those things count because they are actually building up your digital awareness or
they're building up the analog awareness, because I think something that I have seen over especially since COVID, that before COVID everything was in-person meetings, conferences where the exchanges happen. COVID forced us to be 100% online. And now you have that bounce back, that you have a lot of things happening online, but these personal interactions, talkings become more and more extremely important. So you have this wide range, that you have the importance of the personal relationship, personal contacts at exactly these conferences you mentioned. And then you have to have the online presence, that when you later go back online and see, okay, they're having more and more content about what we talked about, and that strengthened the impressions you had in these personal meetings.
Yeah, so point 2 is you have to allow these guys going on to these things to upload more on LinkedIn, more me messages, more stuff that is circling around a person and a content and something that has happened. To spin this a number of times. So we think we have seen this trend. We think this will be a major shift in 2026, that you will see this so much more often. And here comes the thing. If you don't believe this, we claim the following. The youngsters are not content waiting 20 years for an opportunity in a foundry. They will drive this. Whether you like it or not, they will drive this in one way or another, because they want to reach out. They want to be in the digital discussion groups about shot plunger, alloy, blah, 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 gigacasting, new jobs. I don't know. And they are already present there. So this is what will happen. So see it from the other way. If you have a couple of youngsters, you already have experts in digital marketing. You just need to use them. But you have to allow them to work through the personal brand to shine on your company brand.
Yeah, and especially it also, as we had it in like your favorite episode, Do You Have to Write Captains? From if you have also the executive team being present, telling why they're doing things, how they take decisions, and what direction the company is going, that's so much more valuable in a combination with building a brand on the company side. So you get these different viewpoints, different directions, and if everything aligns, you have a massive impact.
But then you have some other factors. I mean, let's take one thing, for example. More guys will be terminated on the jobs because companies go bankrupt, and many of those are trying to look for a new job, and many of those have a great experience. They will become probably consultants or employed in other organizations, maybe not directly a foundry. And here you go. You get more people out there that needs to brand themselves. So the competition in the branding of yourself will also increase, because the number of people doing this will increase, meaning this will be far more important for you.
Yeah, what's true for the company is also true in the personal. If you see more and more people saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. Okay. But if you know the guy, or if you are familiar with their content, you're way more likely to reach out and recommend that maybe you don't have a job open, but you know that someone is looking for exactly that thing, and you are a part of a discussion, and that makes it easier to get into new opportunities.
The next thing is that, and we will come to this more in detail, but we see more and more new services that is needed in the foundry industry, like software, for example. And I mean, you don't need to be an expert in making the code for that software, but you need to understand castings. And here you go, that in those new services, it's actually an uplift for a software company to have some people that, you used to say, know what they're talking about. And if you should be that person that knows what you're talking about, you have to be a little bit half famous in our industry. And then you have to build your brand. So there's a number of factors, but if we believe this, more guys on the market, more services out there, and then you have a lot of R&D news that are coming to help out with the transition of alloys and designs and leak tightness and requirements and all that. There's a lot of professors doing brilliant work, but they're not that super good in marketing all the time. So they need people carrying out, and here you have a lot of content. If you combine all this, you also, as a person, becomes a person of interest for, let's say, a gigacasting project or a new startup or a new design phase or so forth. You became fluent between purchasing and producing. The boundaries will smear out a little bit, and making your field of employment much, much bigger. So to make a little bit of a repetition here, the youngsters will drive this. It will be super important because more people will be looking for new jobs, new challenges. More people are trying to hire experts, meaning your content is super important. New services will require more people that actually knows about foundry business. And then all this will also be driven by the R&D. So there you go. This is happening in 2026, according to us.
Yep. And I think one thing that is also quite important, that if you put out content, that is not just 100 people seeing it at the next Foundry conference. It travels globally. And in a global world, as we are today, totally interconnected, sourcing equipment, sourcing castings from all over the world, delivering them everywhere, you need to be present in different markets. And that's the best way to do it if you put out interesting content. And I think that also is the transition to where we think the biggest growth is happening. And that's not in Europe, that is in Asia. And for that, when you're looking to go to a conference and you don't know which one and you have to choose, our recommendation is next year after the Euro goes, go to the China die casting, because there is the epicenter for the Asian market, not just China, for the whole Asian market.
Here. I mean, we all have known it for quite some time. If I look from our perspective, from the town of Skillingaryd with 4,211 inhabitants, looking at the customers we have, looking where we see things, there's no question. North America, Europe combined is not as a driving force as Asia. But Asia, then we're talking about big countries here. We're talking about India, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, all this Micronesia, which is 1 billion people, and then you have Japan as a technology driver on top of everything. I mean, they're winning this. They're investing. They have people. They got a lot of things. So, but they also are looking for a lot of other things, and basically know-how and knowledge. So go to Asia. Whatever you do, go to Asia.
Absolutely. And I think also with the next topic we're talking about, which is the gigacastings, there is a lot more happening in Asia. Working on a gigacasting project in Asia might be a language barrier, but we are seeing it that it now turns out what we already discussed, for example, with Dr. Markus Hofer, with Bühler, that building out a gigacasting factory is not just buying the equipment, putting them together and start producing. There are so many new roles, new ways of producing that you have to develop to make that a successful casting. And we see that there are a lot of openings coming up in that sphere. It starts, as we said in the beginning, in the metallurgy department. So you have to have a metallurgist that knows what's going on in the casting side. And then you need software guys developing personalized software for these applications to really understand what is going on. As you're standing on the shop floor, you have no clue how the 190 jet coolers in Slider 1 interact with the 20 3D printed inserts in the mainframe. These are things that have an impact, and especially changing chemical composition and melt temperature has an impact on both of them. There are so many interactions, and you need to go through the data and have a conclusion out of that, and then replicate it, go back through the whole feedback loop. So communication, software, interconnection,
and you're
exchange of people. Yeah, and you have to do it while the car production is waiting for your castings.
That is a brilliant presentation of the theme. And if you start to look at it, China made 15.4 million cars 2024, 2025 probably more. But if you're thinking 1 million cars, and they have a rear floor, a battery tray, and then a front cradle, or whatever you call it, that's 3 gigacastings. And if you start to calculate a little bit on the cycle time, that means that every plus 1 million cars is actually 30 big machines. So then you get the size of the thing, and then you can start to think about something else. Number one, there are not that many that has a super experience of the production and trimming the production. So I would like to say like this: gigacasting has been invented. Now it has to be developed. We see 15-20 years of development of this. Design rules, material card, productivity stuff, the tooling and the alloys and everything that Fabian has been talking about. And this is going to require a lot of smart people. And who to hire? Guess what? The guy that has a brand. And here comes my point. If you're young and listening to this, in the old days, you were supposed to be 55 and been running 200 tools in a small tool shop or whatever the experience came from for, I don't know, a company. A Swedish company, Ericsson, for example. There are no people with this experience. So a good brain, a good understanding of this multidisciplinary work that has been done is actually making you equal if you're 25 or 55. It doesn't matter because no one has the experience, basically. I mean, it's 100 guys that has the experience, and then probably most of them come from Tesla. But okay, you need 500. So the rest of the 400, you're competing for the first time in your career, non-dependent of age. Think about that.
Exactly. Also, this time, I think a younger age is a bigger advantage in that case, because you need to do new things, connect certain things that never have been connected.
Yeah.
And you are on a fresh perspective. Yeah. If you've done that for 20 years, you have a certain way of doing that. And there is no guarantee that scales out well to a gigacasting.
If I was 20, 25, maybe 30, and was thinking about, yeah, the guys have a good idea. How do I become relevant? Okay, here it comes. We have a few points for you. First of all, I would study metallurgy. There's a trend here. We will go into it. I think it's point 5 in this one. I will actually try to learn stuff that I don't know. I will market myself as a brand. I will try to make that presentation. I would upload a little bit more content-based, not that you're happy having an ice cream because it's Friday. I will download as much as I can to understand the impact of the gigacasting. And what do I mean? Well, what does it mean for a car company? How many parts are reduced? All that we know. But try to step behind it. How many people is needed before and after at the car company, for example, and try to put this in perspective so you actually understand where is the real floor in the car business. And then I would cling into conferences, R&D conferences and so forth. You don't need to go to them, but you would be surprised if you start to write to professors and academics and say, hey, I saw that you held a speech about this, I'm very interested. 99% of the times they will send you a copy of the presentation. Yep. They will do. You don't need to go there, buy a hotel room on your own expense because no one wants to pay you or something. You just reach out and you will
get also you
so
start
much
a conversation,
knowledge.
You get different viewpoints on the topics you're interested. And then that's another thing that you talk a bit about things. Then you do research based on these points and you more and more become an expert in that what you're interested. And I think that specialization or positioning, that's hugely important also when we go from the personal view of a personal brand, also the suppliers. You don't need to invest in a gigacasting machine to implement the ways that gigacasting was made successful. Learn how they're doing it. Anything that moves your OEE number is crucial for your existing production to make you money, because in a transition with overcapacity, you can't afford to fix the same production issue day over day. You need to have a flawlessly running production, and by learning what they're doing, how they interconnect things, how to use smart softwares in that, how to utilize smart people taking decisions that might look quite stupid at the beginning, but pan out very well at the end because they are unconventional. Try to replicate that for your foundry, whatever the machine size is, because they are doing things because it's needed for them. You can do these things because it's a big advantage for you. That's just a recommendation, and reach out if you want to get more insights on that.
I totally agree. The top level thing, if you're a supplier to this industry and want to make a good fortune or a good future, let's put it that way, focus on the OEE. How are you impacting it? Try to make calculations, try to set it in that perspective and use that perspective for everything you do. R&D or recruiting of people or whatever, because this is the thing. Gigacastings has been invented. Now we need to learn how to run it and get out 60 pieces per hour without any stops. I mean, come on, it's a big field.
And for you, the advantage, you already know how to produce your parts. It's just now to get the maximum out of it, because the margins has been dropping. And with the innovation that is out there, with existing products, with existing connection tool softwares, you can claim a bit of that back. But for that, you need the people that are interested in that educate about certain things, and then want to try to implement it to learn even further. And now we are in full circle. And these people are also the ones that want to put out content. And one thing that is really underutilized is that we should talk more about alloys. And not just one alloy fits everything, more about specialized alloy for specialized applications to maximize the output properties. Because when it comes to branding, that is something where it's very easy to stand out.
Yeah, I'm super keen on this alloy thing. Reason is I'm sitting on a bunch of these projects that are to start in 2026. And if you see those brands walking in there and wants to start to develop alloys, you start to realize this is important. And basically there are a couple of factors working here. Number one, people want to lower the silicon because of elongation, body weight, but also to reduce the carbon dioxide impact because silicon is a major CO2 driver, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is that the scrap market is totally undeveloped right now. We just see a lot of export from Europe to Asia and back and forth. It's not super balanced. And this makes it difficult for the big OEMs to get secondary alloys with good properties available in the continents where they need to have it. So it's not only the chemistry, it's also the development of sourcing and stuff around it. So this is very, very interesting. And then comes the next thing, the combination of process and alloy, process or chemistry, if I put it like that. How do you reach the best properties 1 meter out in the flow length with as much of, if I might say, crap as possible? We're speaking about iron content, manganese, magnesium, and all these things that you put into your alloy. And by tradition, this is not a big field in die casting.
No, absolutely not, because you had one specification which had to do the parts that are aluminium just to be not plastic to the parts that have the highest crash relevance. And everything is done with one specification. And
yes,
what I think is going to happen to really allow for that sustainability, that we have a tiering, that we still have these really tight specifications where we have the highest requirements. But for many parts, put in whatever you want in scrap, because the application doesn't care about if you have 10, 8 or 5% elongation. It might be just a bracket holding something to it. Yeah, then you have to change over that you don't have flow drill screws to helicoils and things like that. But you have a way lower carbon footprint. And then it comes back to what is your target? And with these things, and you can really differentiate yourself saying, okay, we have different applications, different requirements, and we use different tierings, different carbon footprints in that. And when it doesn't count, it's easy to implement more scrap that is on a lower value to get the casting done. And I think these are the things what we're seeing for the future, which is a really big challenge for OEMs that love their specification, that one specification kills every application. Now it's become that you have to tier them, and yeah.
But the funny thing here is that you also see that the newcomers, non-legacy producers, they're quicker to adapt. And they will gain more momentum in this, believe me, and they will make money on this. Because if you look
they don't have to pivot a few thousand people in quality departments that do nothing else than enforcing one specification.
Yeah, I can hear the Germans swearing. Yeah.
When we talk about new things, non-legacy OEMs that are quicker, we see it also with our semi-solid casting, that to utilize these alloys with higher scrap content, lower carbon footprint, the best way to go for it is Rio casting, where you can cast higher iron contents, lower silicon contents, and don't have an impact on the flowability. You can have excellent properties after 1 or 2 meters of flow length.
Yeah, that's the tech explanation, but I think what the wider audience will see is that the number of nominations will start to grow very quickly. I see this because I have some insight. So that's one thing. The second thing you probably will see is more big OEMs stepping into it. And I think this is we call it hockey stick graph in Sweden. You fight your way for 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden things start to grow very quickly. And we see this. And given the amount what we see is in verification and development now with pretty clear SOPs starting around the corner in 2026 means that they need to start the production 2027 SOPs and onward. So yeah, we will see a lot of info around this and we'll see a lot of things happening. I'm not sure myself what's out there actually, because people shouldn't tell me everything they're doing. But I see that they're occupied, and I hear things between the lines, and I hear the rumors. So this will be a lot of small news flashes in 2026 about nominations and OEMs stepping into semi-solid casting in one way or another.
Yeah, and also with the tendency that we want to reduce the silicon content, it lowers the barrier very much, as you don't need to have a different material. You can use the existing material, the existing part, and then build your semi-solid process around it to really utilize the best properties. And that's something, again, when you do that, is something where you can stand out, where you build your brand around that. And it gives you also the opportunity to get into completely new applications that are unreachable for other high-pressure die casting foundries. And I think our favorite application in that is the CO2 compressors. As the EU F-gas ban is coming, there is no way to continue the compressor housing as we have them now. If you want to have the highest efficiency, you need to go to CO2, and then you have to operate a compressor housing at 180 bar with CO2 in it, so you have to test it at 180 bar helium. There's no way high pressure die casting holds that in, even with impregnation. For your casting can do that out of the box.
You cannot use impregnation either, actually, because
you have to weld the chuck.
Things. Yeah, it's too hot and all that. Yeah, but I think many people are betting on getting this to work, and we see now that the pressure is increasing in this segment. So we probably see a few initiatives or a quick changeover or whatever you like to call it in this. So if you're a foundry, this is still a place to be. That I'm pretty sure on.
If you have followed along, you could see, okay, we have an oversupply. Okay, we need branding. And now we're coming into the fun part because of your branding, because of the technology you're using, you can get in new applications in your foundry that others cannot get. So you can fill your pipeline with things that haven't been on the portals or are on the portals because of you. So that is the power of branding. It will take a while, yes, but the impact is massive. And with these new applications you're getting in, you also need to increase your efficiency to get them out in the quality that you promised. And here comes the next development phase into it, and that's software. Because again, we are a hardware-based industry, but to get the highest output, it's not about the machines. They are probably all on a very high level at the moment. There is no need to differentiate between which machine builder you're purchasing the things from. It's more who can deliver you the best solution to track, monitor, and improve your production. And now we're fully in the software territory. And with that software, there are software out there that you can customize to fit your application. But on the other side, you also need to build your own customized tools that solve these. This is a lot of work, and I need a quick solution to really get data, combine that with other data and these small things. So having an IT person that is actually producing software for your own usage and it's not just helping you reset your laptop is something as well that is a key for 2026 and onwards. I don't know what you think about that.
I kind of share your thoughts on top level, but I think it's not much about your IT guy. Your IT guy should be good in implementing softwares, because what we see now is that the bigger things get, the more qualified alloys you pour into a machine, the smaller process window you have. And that means that everything starts to melt down in this multidisciplinary pool to be swimming in. And that means that you need to have really good simulations, not okay simulations. You need really good. You need to have a cooling system in your tool that is optimized. Okay, then you actually need to do another kind of simulation. You need to really go through a lot of things. So what I'm saying is that a software doesn't care who has been working for the 5 years or 15 years or 5 months in your company. It's based on a calculation. It's unpolitical. That's number one. Number two, the guys that actually knew a lot of things, they're retiring more and more and more. And how do you can knowledge? Well, you do it actually with software in a way. Maybe not completely, but in a way. And that this means that the relevance of softwares is also increasing. So you have these 3-4 factors driving it, and we have seen in this podcast also beautiful examples where people are developing DFX modules, for example, for casting planning. I mean, let's be honest, all casting planners I've met has not been, Formula 1 race drivers winning the championship. They're good in different things, but not all of a sudden maybe you need to be a little bit more into other applications as well. And then the software doesn't care if you're planning a carbon dioxide compressor or a giga casting or a small thing looking like a number 7 or something in the alphabet. So we will see them because they're needed. All other industries have them all over, and we are a mechanical industry from the start, and the level of academization is not that super high in casting either. But we have to go that way because the process windows they're just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and people are demanding more and more advanced alloys and design. So here you go. We need software. So your IT guy should be good in, allowing that firewall to actually let the data exchange of that software to work and all that, because this is where it will happen.
Yeah. Also, let them understand why it's needed. It's not just being locked down on everything. It's more like connecting your own data to your knowledge base and then get out the highest efficiency possible, because then if you combine it again with the knowledge you're obtaining through the contact, through the conferences, then you really get ahead of everybody else. And now it's the time to put out the elbows and move your way forward, not just wait for your OEM to be selected that you can deliver or quote the parts. You need to take your destiny in your own hands.
Yeah, and if you're looking also from a personal level, building a personal brand and all that we've been speaking about, I mean, take a day and stroll through the Eurogas and speak with the software guys. Because it's another world and it's not a lingo, but it's filled with opportunities. Because a software company exists when they have a good software with people who understands how to use it. It's just a tool, And you don't go buy a die casting machine without knowing how to work around it and use it. And if you don't know it, then you hire a couple of guys that knows how to run your die casting machine. The same thing with the software. So there's a lot of people needed here that knows foundry and casting to make those softwares work as well. It's a yin and yang situation.
Exactly. It's the same with implementing AI. Just slapping AI on everything doesn't help you at all. But if you have the right tasks that an AI can solve, like combining knowledge and preserving knowledge and giving easy access to certain amount of data, perfect application. And there are many, many more you can find throughout your own thing, but you need to be able to develop these things. And software, doesn't matter if you buy it or develop it yourself, doesn't work perfectly from day one. There needs to be an adaptation process, and that takes quite some time. So you need to also provide the resources to make that software perfectly fit your applications. And if you push that on to the same people that keep your production running, which are not that many, that are the key players in every foundry, you will have a very bad time. So you need to build up people that also are interested and can take out certain applications from these highly overloaded people that keep everything running, and then also they have time then now to share their knowledge, to build a wider knowledge base within your company.
But I think we have been talking a lot of details here, but to make a really top-level summary of 2026, what are we seeing? Well, if I go first, personal brand, we will see people branding themselves and we'll see this increasing. We will see more nominations in semi-solid and more brands stepping into it. We will see more softwares. We will probably see a lot of people going bankrupt or companies, but I think this is going to slow down in the second half of 2026. But in top level, 2026 will be the year when we see that people have decided or are deciding on major changes and start to execute. And I see a little bit more light in the tunnel in 2026 second half than I did in 2025. I hope I'm right.
Let's hope so, because I'm seeing as well knowledge transfer, so obtaining knowledge, using the knowledge, and then starting business development with branding, reaching out for new applications. Semi-solid is a great way to get new applications in, are the key factors that decide how is it going. And let's hope that everything gets back to hunky-dory territory at the end of 2026.
It will never do, but it will be interesting and looking
Let's hope
better.
that it's at least for these companies that follow along and really do the groundworks, that for them it pays off.
Let me quote Mr. Mark Twain. He had a question why he was so interested in the future. He said, well, of course I'm interested in the future because I'm going to live my rest of my life there. That's why I'm interested, at least. I think it's going to be exciting. And
that's a strong quote. So you can really decide with that quote, okay, who are the ones that live in the future, want to be there and form a future, or who are the guys that, oh no, we did that for 20 years that way, we'd continue doing that.
Yeah. I mean, as an ending, if you're sitting in Europe, Eurogas is upcoming, stroll by. Let's discuss, because we can point out at least 17 points where you can see these changes. 17 points. And every point is a company doing something in this direction that we are claiming the future will look like. So come around the Rio Casting Pavilion and meet me and argue with me. Prove me wrong. Looking forward
Absolutely.
to it.
I'm there as well in Hall 5, booth number 153. And let's discuss. Let's find what we can support you in, where you can improve, and then let's make a profitable future together.
Yep, absolutely.
And we see us in the next Gold Nugget. Hopefully, then also at the Eurogas. See you there.
See you there. Bye. Wiedersehen.